History is not always found in books. It is often written on the Earth itself. From the edge of space, our planet reveals secrets invisible to anyone standing on the ground. This video will show you 25 of the world's most baffling structures, colossal designs that only make sense when seen from above. You will gain a completely new understanding of ancient ingenuity and the enduring human need to leave a permanent mark. We will see a giant horse carved into an English hillside for a reason no one can fully explain, and a perfect stone wheel in the Middle East that might be a prehistoric calendar. What common thread connects these mysterious creations across thousands of years and miles? A hummingbird with a wingspan stretching over 200 feet flies across the Peruvian desert. Nearby, a perfect spiral tail marks an enormous monkey, and a strange humanoid figure some call the astronaut stares up from the Earth. These are the Nazca lines, one of archaeology's most famous and enduring puzzles. Etched onto the arid plains of southern Peru more than 1,500 years ago, these geoglyphs were not meant for human eyes at ground level. The artists, members of the ancient Nazca culture, created them with astonishing simplicity and profound complexity. They did not build up, but rather scraped away, carefully removing a top layer of dark, sun-baked stones to reveal the lighter-colored sand and clay beneath. This created lines and shapes that have resisted erosion for centuries in one of the driest places on Earth. The figures are monumental. The hummingbird is over 300 feet long. The condor stretches nearly 450 feet from beak to tail feathers. To stand beside one is to see only a shallow groove in the desert floor, a path leading to nowhere. The full, breathtaking image is reserved for a viewer high above. This fact is the core of the mystery. How did the Nazca people, without flight, design and execute such precise, massive artwork? Some researchers suggest they used simple surveying techniques, perhaps with ropes and stakes to plot out the enormous shapes from smaller-scale models. Yet the accuracy over such vast distances remains staggering. The purpose of these lines is an even greater enigma. Were they a giant astronomical calendar, aligning with celestial events like the solstice? Were they sacred pathways walked during important rituals, a form of pilgrimage across the desert? The most compelling theory is that they were messages or offerings meant specifically for deities in the sky. In a world where water was life, perhaps these drawings were pleas to the gods who controlled the rain, visible only to them from their heavenly vantage point. The so-called astronaut figure with its large round eyes only deepens the speculative wonder. Does it represent a shaman in a ritual headdress or something else entirely? The Nazca lines remind us that ancient peoples thought on a scale we can barely grasp, turning their entire landscape into a canvas for faith, science, and art. Their silent, sprawling gallery in the sand challenges our assumptions about technology and communication, proving that some conversations were meant to be held with the sky itself. While the Nazca artists worked with the dark stones of a desert, another ancient culture chose a different canvas and a different color. Far to the north, on the vibrant green hills of England, a figure of pure white has watched over the landscape for 3,000 years. This is the Uffington White Horse, a masterpiece of abstract art carved into the chalk bedrock of an Oxfordshire hillside. Its form is not a literal horse, but a creature of elegant, flowing lines, a single continuous ribbon of stylized energy that seems to gallop across the slope. To stand beside it on the hill, you see only a deep trench in the grass, a mysterious gouge in the earth. But step back, or better yet, view it from the air, and the full, breathtaking image snaps into focus. This was an artwork designed for the horizon, a signal meant to be seen from miles away. Its creation is a story written in geology and tradition. The figure was made by people of the late Bronze Age, who cut deep trenches into the hillside to expose the brilliant white chalk underneath. For millennia, communities have maintained this symbol through a practice known as scouring, gathering every few years to clean the trenches and replenish the chalk, preventing grass from reclaiming the lines. This act of preservation is itself a ritual, a living connection to a past that remains just out of reach. The horse is not alone in this ancient landscape. It overlooks the Ridgeway, a trackway often called Britain's oldest road, and sits just below the ramparts of Uffington Castle, an Iron Age hill fort. This placement is no accident. It suggests a landscape carefully composed, where the horse was a central part of a larger ceremonial space, a focal point for gatherings, trade, and rites. But what did this galloping white horse signify to the people who created it? Its age rules out the later Anglo-Saxon associations with victory. Instead, many historians look to the Celtic peoples who inhabited the land. Could it represent a powerful tribal symbol, a declaration of identity visible across the territory? Or was it a devotion to a deity, perhaps a goddess of horses, fertility, and sovereignty like Epona? Some researchers look to the sky, noting the horse's alignment with celestial bodies or its position relative to the sun's path, suggesting it might have been part of a vast, open-air calendar or observatory. The truth is, the Uffington white horse carries all these possible meanings at once. It is a territorial marker, a religious icon, and a cosmic diagram, all woven into one elegant form. It speaks of a society that communicated not with words on a page, but with symbols on the land itself, creating a permanent message for their community, their gods, and for the future. This chalk enigma proves that the urge to make marks visible from a great height is a human impulse as old as civilization itself, appearing in deserts and on green hills across the world. The ambition of the Uffington horse is dwarfed by a creation of almost unimaginable scope. In the high plains of western Bolivia, near the towering Sajama volcano, the earth is covered in a web of straight lines so vast it defies belief. This is the Sajama Lines Network, a series of ancient paths that together form the longest and most extensive collection of geoglyphs anywhere on our planet. From the ground, you might see a single, shallow pathway stretching toward the horizon, easily mistaken for a natural feature or a modern trail. But from above, the true magnitude is revealed. Thousands upon thousands of perfectly straight lines crisscross the Altiplano, a high desert plateau covering an area larger than the entire Nazca region. Some individual lines run for over 20 kilometers or more than 12 miles in arrow-straight perfection across one of the most challenging landscapes on Earth. The method of creation echoes the technique used in Peru. For centuries, generations of people carefully scraped away the dark, oxidized surface stones and soil to reveal the lighter, sandy earth beneath. This created a stunning visual contrast, a network of pale lines etched into the dark canvas of the plateau. But the sheer quantity of work here is almost incomprehensible. Researchers estimate the total length of all the lines combined could span an astonishing 10,000 miles. This was not the work of a single artist or a small village. This was a civilization-scale project, a coordinated endeavor that must have required shared purpose, sophisticated planning, and immense communal effort over many lifetimes. So what was this purpose? Why would a society invest so much labor into creating a design only fully visible from the sky? The leading theories all speak to the profound relationship between people and their extreme environment. Some archaeologists see these lines as sacred pilgrimage routes, connecting local shrines or ceremonial sites known as wakas. Walking these straight paths could have been a spiritual journey, a moving meditation across the sacred landscape under the watchful eye of the volcano. Others propose they functioned as a colossal astronomical calendar, with certain lines pointing toward solstice sunrises or significant stars, helping to mark the seasons in a place where survival depended on precise timing. A more practical suggestion is that they served as territorial markers for ancient llama and alpaca herders, defining grazing lands or directing the movement of herds across the open plains. The truth may weave all these ideas together. The lines could have been physical manifestations of a worldview where the practical need to navigate and organize a territory was inseparable from spiritual beliefs about the cosmos. Each straight path was a connection, not just between 2 points on a map, but between the community, their ancestors, and the deities of the sky and earth. The Sajama lines stand as a monumental testament to human cooperation. They show us that long before modern nations, people were capable of organizing on a massive scale to imprint their collective identity onto the land itself, creating a masterpiece of order in a vast and untamed world. This drive to organize the landscape into geometric perfection points us toward another mystery, one found not in the open desert, but hidden beneath the soil of the Amazon. The straight lines of Sajama speak of human order, but other ancient artists chose to depict the forms of life itself. On the opposite side of the Americas, where the Colorado River carves its path through the California desert, giants sleep in the sand. These are the Blythe Intaglios, colossal figures of humans and animals that lie invisible to anyone standing beside them. From the ground, you would see only shallow, wandering depressions in the rocky soil. But from the air, the full, stunning forms emerge. A human figure stretches over 50 meters long, its arms outstretched as if in offering or dance. Nearby, a coiled serpent and a majestic, horse-like creature with a long tail are etched with similar grandeur into the desert pavement. Their creation followed a now familiar, yet no less impressive, technique. Members of Native American cultures, likely ancestors of the Mojave or Quechan peoples, carefully scraped away the top layer of dark, sun-baked stones and gravel to reveal the lighter, compacted soil beneath. This act, performed hundreds of years ago, created a lasting contrast that has survived in the arid climate. The presence of the horse figure offers a tantalizing clue to its age. Since horses were reintroduced to the Americas by European explorers, this particular geoglyph was almost certainly created after that contact, a powerful example of a traditional art form adapting to incorporate a new and transformative element of the world. This adaptation makes the site a living dialogue between ancient practice and a changing landscape. But what ceremony required such monumental signatures? The remote, silent location is key to understanding. Far from any permanent settlement, this stretch of desert is a place between places, a spiritual corridor along the great river. Researchers believe these figures were not meant for daily human viewing. Instead, they were likely sacred symbols representing mythological beings, ancestral heroes, or clan totems. Their true audience was not people, but the spirits and deities believed to dwell in the sky above. The rituals that accompanied their creation or use would have been profound events, possibly involving entire communities traveling to this special site. Imagine a gathering under the endless desert sky, with songs and stories breathing life into the giant forms being maintained or celebrated below, a connection made visible only from a celestial perspective. The isolation was not an obstacle but a necessity. It transformed the location into a dedicated temple without walls, where the vast quiet amplified the spiritual significance of the acts performed there. The Blythe Intaglios are a whisper carried on the dry wind, a reminder that sacred spaces can be defined not by architecture, but by intention and scale, leaving a message for the heavens written in the very skin of the earth. Hidden beneath the living canopy of the Amazon, a different kind of geometry sleeps. For centuries, the dense rainforest of Brazil and Bolivia kept a secret, its roots and vines concealing shapes that should not exist. It was only with modern deforestation and the eye of satellites that the truth was uncovered. Scattered across the landscape are not just one or two, but hundreds of enormous earthworks, perfect circles, precise squares, and complex octagons carved into the ground. These are the Amazonian geoglyphs, and they rewrite everything we thought we knew about this place. Dating from roughly 2,000 to 650 years ago, these structures are not piles of stone. They are formations made of earth, consisting of deep ditches and adjoining embankments that form their geometric outlines. From the ground, within the overwhelming green of the jungle, they are completely invisible. You could walk right through one and never know, but from above the pattern is unmistakable, a colossal stamp of order pressed into the chaotic wilderness. This discovery shatters the old idea of a pristine, untouched Amazon. Instead, it reveals a landscape that was actively shaped and managed by sophisticated societies long before European contact. These were not small, isolated tribes, but organized cultures capable of large-scale, coordinated projects that transformed their environment. The purpose of these silent enclosures is a puzzle that archaeologists are still piecing together. Crucially, researchers have found very little evidence of daily life within them, like broken pottery or remains of housing. This suggests they were not permanent villages. So what were they for? The leading theories paint a picture of a society that blended practical knowledge with deep spiritual life. Some of the earthworks may have been ceremonial centers, gathering places for important rituals, festivals, or social meetings. Their perfect shapes could have held cosmic significance, representing a worldview where human community mirrored the order of the heavens. Others might have served as defensive structures, their deep ditches forming barriers for protection during times of conflict. Given the Amazon's climate, another compelling idea points to water management. The ditches could have been used to control flooding, drain soil for agriculture, or even act as reservoirs and fish ponds, showcasing an advanced understanding of how to live in harmony with a challenging ecosystem. The precision of the circles and squares speaks volumes. To lay out such perfect geometric forms across kilometers of uneven terrain required a sophisticated knowledge of engineering and mathematics. It meant someone long ago could envision a perfect circle on a monumental scale and then direct a community to bring that vision to life, moving immense amounts of earth by hand. This was landscape engineering on a grand scale. Yet, the greatest mystery may be why these places were abandoned. Around 650 years ago, for reasons we may never fully know, these societies left. It could have been due to shifts in climate, the arrival of new illnesses, or changes in social organization. Whatever the cause, they walked away from their colossal earthworks, and the relentless rainforest did what it always does. It grew back, swallowing these geometric clearings in a blanket of green, hiding them from the world for centuries. Their rediscovery does more than add a new chapter to history. It changes the entire book. It shows us that the Amazon is not just a wild forest, but a living archive. Its floor holds the footprints of civilizations that mastered their world, leaving behind a message in earth and ditch that we are only now beginning to read. This revelation of a managed, engineered Amazon connects to an even older tradition of shaping the land, one found in a place where the stones themselves seem to have been arranged by giants. A perfect stone wheel turns silently on a high plateau in the Golan Heights. This is Rujum el-Hiri, the Wheel of Giants, a sprawling monument of concentric circles built from thousands of dark basalt boulders. From the ground, it is a perplexing maze of tumbled stone walls, a labyrinth without an obvious entrance or exit. But ascend above the rocky terrain, and the grand design reveals itself with stunning clarity. Four immense, perfect circles, one inside the other, are all centered on a massive, mysterious cairn, a heap of stone at the very heart of the wheel. This structure is ancient, dating back over 5,000 years to the early Bronze Age, a time when most of the world's great civilizations were just taking their first steps. The sheer physical effort it represents is staggering. Each of the dark boulders was gathered and moved by hand, with the largest walls standing nearly 8 feet high and containing an estimated 40,000 tons of stone. This was not a casual project. It speaks of a society with a powerful shared purpose, capable of organizing labor on a monumental scale, likely a community of pastoral herders who saw a meaning in this place that compelled them to reshape it forever. But what meaning did they see? The central cairn, a dense pile of rock, initially led archaeologists to think this was a burial site for an important individual. Yet excavations have found very few human remains, and those that were found appear to be from a much later period. This was not primarily a tomb, so why build it? The most compelling clue is written in the sky. Researchers have found that the architecture is precisely aligned with celestial events. On the morning of the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the rays of the rising sun would have pierced a narrow gateway in the outer wall, shooting a beam of light directly toward the central cairn. Other openings may have aligned with the sunrise on the equinoxes or with significant stars. This has led many to believe the Wheel of Giants functioned as a colossal calendar and observatory. For a society dependent on the seasons for grazing and agriculture, tracking the sun's journey was a matter of survival. This stone wheel would have been their clock and their almanac, a permanent, unshakable marker in the landscape that told them when to move their herds and when to plant. But to reduce it to mere practicality feels incomplete. The perfect circles, the immense effort, the choice of this specific high place with its sweeping views of the horizon, all point to something deeper. It was likely also a sacred space, a temple under the open sky where the community gathered for rituals that connected them to the cycles of the cosmos. The solstice sunrise striking the central stones would have been a moment of profound ceremony, a visible bond between heaven and earth mediated by human hands. The name given by later cultures, the Wheel of Giants, echoes the awe it inspires. It feels like a work for beings larger than ourselves, yet it was built by people just like us, who looked at the same sun and stars and felt a fundamental need to mark their passage, to build a dialogue with the universe in stone. The wheel does not give up its secrets easily. It stands as a silent, circular question, reminding us that our ancestors sought order in the heavens and went to incredible lengths to etch that order into the very ground they walked on. Far from the ancient stone circles of the Middle East, a modern giant appeared almost overnight. In the vast, sun-baked emptiness of South Australia's desert, a pilot flying a routine route in 1998 glanced down and saw something impossible. Stretched across the red earth of the plateau was the colossal figure of a man, an indigenous Australian hunter captured in mid-stride, holding a traditional throwing stick. This is the Marree Man, a geoglyph so enormous it stretches for 4.2 kilometers, over 2.5 miles from head to toe. Its lines are not painted but carved, created by someone driving a bulldozer or a plow to gouge trenches up to 35 meters wide into the hard, crusty soil. The scale is almost incomprehensible. From the ground you see only a deep rut in the desert. From the air you witness one of the largest human figures ever drawn on the planet. And yet its origin is a blank space. No artist, no group, no government agency has ever stepped forward to claim responsibility. Its sudden appearance was an act of anonymous creation on a staggering scale, a modern mystery dropped into the outback. The clues left behind only thickened the plot. Near the site, investigators found a small plaque with a faint American flag and references to the branch of the United States Geological Survey, along with a jar containing a satellite image of the figure. A few anonymous press releases were sent to newspapers using American spelling and phrases like barrier instead of the Australian term outback. This pointed toward an American connection, perhaps a military exercise or a private survey team, but the trail went cold. The sheer logistics of the creation are a puzzle in themselves. Whoever did this needed detailed survey coordinates, heavy machinery, and enough fuel and supplies to operate in complete secrecy in one of the most remote places on Earth, all without being seen. It was an operation that required significant funding, planning, and a very specific kind of audacity. So why was it made? The theories are as wide as the desert itself. Was it an extravagant, secretive art project, a statement about land and ownership meant to be seen from satellites? Could it have been a bizarre, oversized land survey marker, or a training exercise for a specialized unit that got out of hand? Many look at the figure itself, a respectful depiction of an indigenous hunter, and wonder if it was intended as a tribute or a provocative commentary on the ancient connection between the first peoples and their land. The Marree Man does not give us answers. Instead, it gives us a profound echo. Here, in the late 20th century, someone felt the same primal urge that moved the Nazca people, the builders of the Wheel of Giants and the creators of the Uffington horse. It is the urge to make a mark so large it can only be understood from a god's eye view, to inscribe a message onto the earth itself that transcends the individual. This modern enigma proves that the drive to leave a monumental signature is not confined to the ancient past. It is a thread that connects across millennia, a whisper in the desert saying that sometimes we still feel the need to speak to the sky. A giant trident stands guard where the desert meets the sea. On the northern slope of Peru's Paracas Peninsula, a hillside of sand and stone has been carved into a monumental shape known as the Candelabra of the Andes. It is a geoglyph of breathtaking scale, towering over 180 meters tall, its central trunk and three broad prongs visible from many miles out into the Pacific Ocean. While the Nazca lines lie inland and are best seen from directly above, this symbol was designed for a different audience, those approaching by water. Its creators are believed to be the Paracas culture, a people who thrived over 2,000 years ago and were master weavers and sailors. They left behind no written explanation, only this colossal signature etched into the coastal hillside, facing the endless blue horizon. The method of its creation mirrors other desert drawings, with stones cleared to reveal lighter soil, but its location is a statement in itself. This was a beacon placed at the intersection of two worlds, the solid land and the unpredictable sea. So what message was it meant to convey? For ancient mariners navigating the powerful Humboldt Current, the sight of this giant trident rising from the barren coast would have been a welcome and unmistakable landmark. It could have functioned as a navigational aid, a permanent signpost pointing toward fresh water sources or safe harbors for their delicate reed boats. This practical purpose, however, is intertwined with deeper spiritual meaning. The three prongs have led many to see it as a representation of the trident, a symbol associated with Viracocha, the great creator god in Andean mythology. For a culture that lived from the ocean's bounty and feared its power, such a symbol carved into the land could have been an offering or a plea for protection, a way to harness divine favor for every voyage. Another compelling theory looks to the local environment. The shape bears a striking resemblance to the majestic San Pedro cactus, a plant containing mescaline, a substance used for centuries in sacred rituals to induce visionary states. In this light, the candelabra could be a giant representation of a sacred plant, a spiritual gateway permanently open to the sky and sea, marking this peninsula as a profoundly holy site. Perhaps all these interpretations are true at once. It was a practical guide, a religious icon, and a territorial marker, all fused into one elegant, enduring form. It spoke to sailors saying, "You are here, you are seen, you are entering a place of significance." The Paracas Candelabra does not just bridge land and sea, it bridges the human and the divine, the practical need to navigate, and the profound desire to connect with forces greater than ourselves. It is a coastal whisper in stone and sand, a question posed to the ocean winds that still has no single answer. High on the sun-blasted slope of Cerro Unitas in Chile, a giant keeps watch over the Atacama Desert. This is the Atacama Giant, a staggering human figure 119 meters tall, making it the largest known pre-Columbian anthropomorphic geoglyph on the planet. From the ground, you see only immense lines and trenches carved into the rust-colored hillside. But from the air, the full form emerges, a colossal being with a rectangular body, straight legs, and a head crowned with what appears to be a radiating headdress or a set of majestic plumes. It is a figure of immense power, etched into one of the driest places on Earth, where the lack of rain and wind has preserved its stark lines for perhaps 1,000 years. Its creators are believed to be the Tiwanaku or Inca cultures, sophisticated societies that thrived in the high Andes and whose influence stretched down to these coastal deserts. They chose this specific mountainside not by accident, but as a statement. The giant faces the vast, empty basin below, a permanent guardian overlooking ancient trade routes that carried precious goods like llama wool, minerals, and seashells across impossible distances. For the weary traveler crossing this brutal landscape, the sight of this figure on the horizon, perhaps maintained with fresh stones by local communities, would have been a profound symbol of guidance and protection. Local legends passed down through generations speak of exactly that, describing the giant as a powerful shaman who watches over those who journey through the desert, a spiritual sentinel offering safe passage. But the giant's gaze may have been fixed on something far higher than the trade paths below. Researchers studying its form have discovered something extraordinary. The lines of its head and the rays of its headdress are not randomly placed. They appear to align with specific points on the horizon where the moon rises and sets during its major lunar standstill, an event that occurs only every 18.6 years when the moon reaches its most extreme northern and southern positions in the sky. For a culture that tracked time through celestial cycles, this alignment would have been of monumental importance. The giant, then, is more than a landmark or a deity. It is a sophisticated astronomical calendar carved into the mountain itself, a fusion of human form and cosmic knowledge. The shaman depicted might not just be guiding travelers through the physical desert, but guiding the entire community through the cyclical desert of time, marking the passage of years and the rhythm of the heavens. This celestial watcher embodies a complete worldview. It connects the practical need to navigate a harsh land with the spiritual need to understand humanity's place in the cosmos. The giant is a map, a clock, and an altar all in one, a testament to the desire to anchor human understanding in something eternal and vast. Its silent vigil on the mountainside makes us wonder what other knowledge is written in the language of earth and stone, waiting for the right perspective to be understood. Deep in the snow-covered Ural Mountains of Russia, a stone elk has waited for millennia, hidden by dense forest and only revealed in 2011 by the sharp eyes of satellite imagery. This geoglyph near Lake Zuratkul is a relic of staggering age and ambition. Constructed roughly 6,000 years ago from carefully arranged stones and white clay, the figure stretches 275 meters from its hooves to the tips of its elaborate, branching antlers. To stand at its edge, you would see only a line of moss-covered rocks disappearing into the trees. But from the sky, the majestic animal emerges, a colossal silhouette frozen in an eternal stride across the mountain slope. Its very existence rewrites a chapter of human history. This elk was created long before the rise of the Egyptian pyramids, crafted by a society of prehistoric hunter-gatherers at a time when monumental architecture was thought impossible for such communities. The effort involved is almost beyond comprehension. Each stone, some weighing hundreds of pounds, was gathered and placed by hand in a coordinated effort that must have spanned seasons, if not generations. This was not the work of a settled, agricultural civilization with a surplus of labor and food. This was the achievement of people living in a harsh, northern environment, whose survival depended on movement and hunting. So what compelled them to pause, to invest such immense collective energy into a design only fully visible from the clouds above? The answer lies in the profound relationship between these people and the world they inhabited. The elk was not just an animal, it was a keystone of life. Its meat provided food, its hide clothing and shelter, its bones tools. To depict it on such a scale was likely an act of deep reverence, a form of worship, or a plea for continued abundance. The geoglyph could have been a sacred site for rituals meant to honor the spirit of the elk, ensuring successful hunts and the cycle of life for the community. Some researchers look to the figure's precise orientation, noting its alignment with celestial bodies or the path of the sun, suggesting it also served as a cosmic map, linking the earthly realm of the hunter with the heavenly order of the seasons. Creating this permanent elk in stone was a way to anchor their beliefs, their identity, and their prayers into the very bones of the mountain. It transformed the landscape from a simple source of resources into a living partner in their spiritual world. This ancient masterpiece challenges our modern assumptions about so-called simple societies. It proves that the need to create, to mark territory with meaning, and to communicate with forces greater than ourselves is a fundamental human drive, one that flourished in the frozen forests of Russia just as it did in the deserts of Peru. The stone elk of the Urals is a silent testament to a sophisticated culture that saw the earth not just as a home, but as a canvas for their most profound hopes. Across the stark, volcanic plains of Jordan's Black Desert, the earth is dotted with thousands of silent stone rings. From the ground, these low walls of dark basalt boulders seem like random scatterings, the work of nature or forgotten herders. But from the vantage of the sky, a breathtaking pattern emerges. These are the Jordanian wheels, perfect circles with lines radiating inward like spokes, alongside vast, kite-shaped formations that stretch for hundreds of meters. Together, they form one of the world's most extensive and enigmatic archaeological landscapes, a cryptic text written in stone across an immense and inhospitable canvas. These structures are ancient, with some dating back at least 2,000 years, and their sheer number is staggering. Researchers have documented thousands of them, each one a deliberate act of placement in a land where every stone had to be moved by hand. This was not the work of a fleeting moment, but a sustained cultural practice that endured for centuries, practiced by nomadic or semi-nomadic peoples who left no written records, only these monumental puzzles on the ground. So what were these wheels for? The theories are as numerous as the circles themselves. Their circular form, often with a central cairn or small pile of stones, strongly suggests they served as tombs or memorial sites. In a landscape with few permanent landmarks, what better way to honor an ancestor than to build a permanent stone circle around their resting place, a marker visible for generations? Yet the precision of the spokes pointing inward hints at another layer of meaning. Archaeologists have noted that the alignments of these spokes often correspond to the rising and setting points of the sun, moon, or significant stars on key dates like the solstices. This suggests the wheels could have functioned as celestial calendars, giant stone compasses that helped these desert dwellers track the passing seasons, essential knowledge for knowing when to move herds to new pastures or when to gather for annual ceremonies. They may also have been enclosures for social or ritual activities, a defined sacred space where communities gathered for meetings, festivals, or rites of passage under the open sky. The nearby desert kites add a fascinating, practical dimension to this story. These are not playful toys, but enormous stone-built funnel traps with long, converging walls that guided herds of gazelle or other animals into a central enclosure or pit. The scale of these kites, visible only from above, reveals a sophisticated, communal understanding of animal behavior and landscape engineering. The proximity of the ceremonial wheels to these practical hunting structures paints a vivid picture of a society deeply in tune with its environment. Their entire world, from the spiritual cycles of the heavens to the practical cycles of the hunt, was mapped onto the desert floor in stone. What daily life centered around these sites? We can envision seasonal gatherings. A community might arrive at a familiar wheel as a certain star aligned with a spoke, signaling it was time for the collective hunt using the great kite. The successful harvest would then be celebrated within the circle, with stories, trade, and rituals that reinforced social bonds and gave thanks. Each stone placed was an act of communication, a way to weave cultural knowledge directly into the terrain. The profound mystery is why they built so many, and in such remote, challenging locations. This proliferation speaks of a rich cultural tapestry, where perhaps different family groups or clans had their own designated wheels, creating a network of social and spiritual waypoints across the vastness. These patterns are not just relics, they are a language. They tell us that for these ancient peoples, the desert was not an empty space to be crossed, but a living, resonant place full of meaning and connection, its story patiently waiting for us to learn how to read it from above. While the Jordanian wheels speak in circles, another desert whispers in straight lines and right angles. Scattered across the harsh, rocky plains of northwestern Saudi Arabia, hundreds of colossal rectangles lie etched into the earth. These are the Mustatils, a name taken from the Arabic word for rectangle, and they are among the oldest large-scale ritual structures ever built by humanity. From the ground, they appear as long, low lines of piled stone, sometimes barely waist-high, stretching toward the horizon and easily mistaken for ancient property boundaries or animal pens. But from the sky, their true purpose becomes undeniable. They are not enclosures for the living, but monumental platforms for the sacred. Each Mustatil follows a remarkably consistent blueprint. Two long, parallel walls, often over 600 meters in length, are connected by shorter walls at each end to form a vast, narrow rectangle. At one end, usually nestled within the head of the structure, lies a smaller, central chamber, a focal point that held profound significance. These are not recent discoveries of archaeology, but very ancient ones, dating back more than 7,000 years to the Neolithic period, a time when most of the world's population were hunter-gatherers. This age alone is staggering, placing their construction millennia before the pyramids of Egypt or the stone circles of Europe. The sheer scale of the endeavor rewrites the history of the Arabian Peninsula. To build just one of these structures required a community to gather, move, and carefully stack thousands of heavy basalt stones in a coordinated effort. The fact that hundreds have been found spread over an area nearly the size of Ireland reveals something extraordinary. This was not an isolated local practice, but a widespread cultural phenomenon. A society or a network of connected communities across this vast desert shared a common belief so powerful it compelled them to invest immense labor into these permanent monuments. So what belief was it? What happened inside these open-air temples? The central chamber holds the key. Excavations at several Mustatils have uncovered clues that point toward ritual activity. Within these chambers, researchers have found altars and, in some, collections of animal horns and skulls, particularly from cattle. This has led archaeologists to propose that the Mustatils were centers for a prehistoric cattle cult. In a landscape where survival was precarious, cattle represented more than just food. They were wealth, status, and life itself. Ceremonies conducted here likely involved offerings or sacrifices, communal acts meant to honor deities associated with rain, fertility, or the animals upon which their world depended. Imagine a gathering 7,000 years ago. A community travels across the rocky plain to a designated Mustatil. They gather within the long stone walls, a human congregation framed by a geometry that reaches for the horizon. At the head, in the central chamber, a ritual unfolds, perhaps the sacrifice of a prized animal, its horns later placed reverently upon a stone altar. This act would have been a powerful social glue, reinforcing shared identity, appeasing unseen forces, and seeking blessings for the community and their herds. The uniformity of the Mustatils is their most telling feature. From one region to another, the design remains consistent. This suggests the rituals performed here were not improvised or local superstitions, but part of a formalized, widely understood religious tradition. Someone long ago established a sacred architecture, and that blueprint was passed down and replicated across generations and vast distances. These structures are a testament to the human need to create dedicated spaces for the intangible, to mark a point on the landscape where the community could collectively touch the divine. They challenge the old notion of early desert peoples as simple, isolated bands. Instead, they reveal interconnected Neolithic cultures capable of sophisticated social organization and spiritual thought, leaving behind a legacy written not in words, but in lines of stone waiting patiently for the sky to read them. The Canterbury Plains of New Zealand hold a figure of modern myth. Known as Cleopatra's Needle, this earth carving stretches across the grass, a stylized human form holding a tall, spear-like object toward the sky. Its clean, deliberate lines are unmistakably a geoglyph, a design meant to be seen from above, yet its story is not one of ancient priests or forgotten calendars. This glyph was created in 1977 by artist Russell Gibson, a conscious echo of a tradition thousands of years old. From the ground, its scale is hidden, but from a plane or satellite, the full intent of the artwork snaps into focus. It is a modern signature on an ancient canvas, proving that the urge to inscribe the land did not end with the last Nazca line or the final stone placed at the wheel of giants. Gibson's work is a direct conversation with those ancient artists, a deliberate choice to use their visual language to explore contemporary ideas. The figure itself, with its prominent needle, can be read as a symbol of human aspiration, a reaching for something just beyond grasp, or perhaps a commentary on our own piercing impact on the natural world. It transforms the passive act of viewing into an active question. What does it mean to make a mark today that can only be fully comprehended from a technological vantage point our ancestors could never have conceived? This modern glyph lacks the ritual mystery of its predecessors, but it carries a different kind of power. It is a deliberate statement, an artwork that acknowledges its own place in a long, unbroken lineage. Its visibility from the air connects it to the satellite era, a time when we can now discover the Amazonian circles and the Jordanian wheels with the same technology that allows us to see this New Zealand figure. It blurs the line between ancient artifact and contemporary creation, reminding us that the landscape itself remains the most enduring medium for human expression. The Cleopatra's Needle geoglyph asks us to consider art not as something separate from the world, but as a part of it, a reshaping of the earth to convey an idea across time and perspective. It confirms that the dialogue between humanity and the horizon is ongoing, and that every new line drawn invites us to look again, and to wonder what we are trying to say to the future. The carved stone crosses of Armenia hold entire worlds in their intricate surfaces. Known as Khachkars, these are not simple markers but profound works of art and faith, each one a unique testament carved from solid stone. Rising from churchyards and hillsides across the country, they date primarily from the medieval period, a tangible link to a spiritual tradition that has endured for over 1,000 years. Each Khachkar is a masterpiece of lace-like stonework, centered on a beautifully ornate cross, often surrounded by swirling vines, pomegranates, leaves, and celestial symbols like rosettes representing the sun. From ground level, you can trace the delicate chisel marks, feel the texture of the stone, and appreciate the devotion in every curve. Yet, when we rise above these sacred fields, a different kind of pattern emerges, one written not on a single stone but across the landscape itself. In certain ancient cemeteries, like the field of Khachkars at Noratus on the shores of Lake Sevan, the aerial view reveals a silent congregation. The stones are not placed at random. They stand in rows and clusters, their uniform verticality creating a rhythm across the grass, a forest of memory pointing steadfastly toward the sky. This collective arrangement transforms the site from a collection of individual memorials into a single, powerful statement of community, continuity, and resilience. What might this layout signify? Researchers suggest these placements could reflect cosmological ideas, with the stones oriented in specific ways that honor the path of the sun or mark sacred directions. They may also map social or family structures, with groupings representing lineages or villages, turning the earth itself into a genealogical chart written in stone. The aerial perspective allows us to grasp the sheer scale of this centuries-long conversation between artisans and their beliefs. We see not just one cross, but hundreds, a tapestry of devotion woven across generations. Each Khachkar was carved to commemorate a significant event, a donation to a church, a military victory, or the memory of a loved one, serving as a permanent prayer for salvation. To see them from above is to witness the cumulative power of that prayer, a visual echo of a community's enduring soul. This vantage point shifts our understanding of sacred landscapes. It shows us that meaning can reside not only in the exquisite detail of a single artifact, but in the powerful patterns created by their aggregation. The Khachkars stand as a bridge between the intimately human and the cosmically vast, their individual beauty magnified into a collective testament visible only when we step back and look down. A civilization's true mastery is often measured by how it controls the most fundamental element, water. In the rolling hills of central Italy, the ancient Etruscans demonstrated a genius that remains hidden in plain sight. Long before the rise of Rome, from roughly 800 to 200 years before the Common Era, these sophisticated peoples sculpted the very earth beneath their feet. They did not build towering pyramids, but instead carved intricate labyrinths into the dark soil and soft volcanic rock. These were the Cuniculi, a sprawling network of tunnels and drainage channels that served as the lifeblood of their cities and farms. From the ground, you might notice only a strange linear depression in a field, or a row of shrubs growing in an unusually straight line where the soil moisture differs. But from above, these subtle clues coalesce into a ghostly blueprint. Satellite imagery reveals faint traces, long straight scars and alignments of vegetation that trace the hidden architecture below, like seeing the veins beneath skin. The purpose of these subterranean works was profoundly practical, born from necessity. The Etruscan heartland, while fertile, presented challenges with seasonal flooding and swampy lowlands. Their solution was a masterpiece of early civil engineering. They meticulously dug these narrow, vaulted tunnels, often tall enough for a person to walk through, to divert water from areas where it was a threat to places where it was a resource. They drained marshes to create arable land, channeled streams to supply their settlements, and managed the flow with an understanding of hydrology that would impress modern engineers. This was not haphazard digging. It was a coordinated, large-scale transformation of the landscape, a testament to communal planning and technical skill that allowed their society to flourish. Some tunnels even featured vertical shafts spaced at regular intervals, which provided access for maintenance and ventilation, revealing a design built to last for centuries. Yet, to view the Cuniculi as merely functional waterworks may be to miss a deeper layer of meaning. For the Etruscans, the earth was not just a physical substance to be shaped, it was a sacred realm. Their religion placed great importance on divining the will of the gods through the observation of natural phenomena, from lightning to the flight of birds. In this worldview, the hidden pathways of water underground would have held immense spiritual significance. Some researchers suggest that certain tunnels, especially those leading to or from sacred springs or necropolises, may have served a dual purpose. They could have been conduits for both physical water and ritual practice, perhaps used in ceremonies of purification or as symbolic passages connecting the world of the living with the underworld. The very act of carving into the earth might have been a sacred dialogue. What we perceive from satellites, then, are the faintest echoes of a complete and integrated philosophy. The straight lines on the surface hint at a hidden order, a deliberate intertwining of urban planning, agricultural innovation, and cosmological belief. The Etruscans did not see a separation between managing their environment and honoring their gods. The two acts were one and the same. Their legacy is a reminder that the most advanced engineering is often in service of a society's deepest understanding of the world. These tunnels whisper that to truly know a civilization, we must learn to read not only the monuments that reach for the sky, but also the quiet, purposeful marks they left upon and within the earth itself. Rows of ancient stone march across the green fields of Brittany like a petrified army. This is Carnac, a landscape transformed into geometry over 6,500 years ago. On the ground, you walk among the menhirs, the local name for these towering standing stones, feeling their immense weight and the cool touch of granite worn smooth by millennia of wind and rain. The scale is personal, intimate, and bewildering, a forest of stone where you can lose your way, but lift your gaze to the sky and the overwhelming pattern reveals its logic. From above, the chaos resolves into astonishing order. Thousands of stones, some standing over 4 meters tall, are arranged in long, precise parallel lines that stretch for kilometers across the countryside. There are not just a few rows, but entire fields of them, with the most famous alignments containing nearly 3,000 individual menhirs. They curve gently, they converge, they form great fan-like shapes, all with a deliberate intention that is only visible from a vantage point its builders could never physically achieve. This aerial perspective reveals Carnac not as a collection of random monuments, but as a single, colossal composition, a diagram drawn on the earth with stones as its pen points. The effort to create this is almost beyond imagining. Each multi-ton stone was quarried, transported, and raised by a society using only stone tools, wooden levers, and raw communal strength. This was not a single generation's work, but a project that spanned centuries, a sustained cultural endeavor passed down like a sacred duty. What kind of society could maintain such a vision for so long? The answer is a stable, highly organized Neolithic community, one with a deep shared belief system powerful enough to coordinate labor across generations. They were farmers and herders who understood the land intimately, and they chose to permanently alter it in this staggering way. So what was the purpose of these silent stone processions? The theories are as compelling as the stones themselves. Their precise linearity, especially their orientation toward the horizon where the sun rises at the summer solstice, strongly suggests an astronomical function. These rows could have served as a giant open-air observatory and calendar. By observing the sunrise or moonrise against specific stones or gaps in the lines, the community could mark the turning of the seasons, essential knowledge for planting and harvest in their agricultural world. Yet to see them only as a scientific instrument feels incomplete. The experience of walking between these towering rows creates a powerful sense of procession, of moving along a designated sacred path. Many archaeologists believe the alignments were ritual avenues, processional ways used during ceremonies that connected different parts of the ritual landscape, perhaps leading from places of the living to places of the ancestors. The stones themselves, imbued with permanence, might have represented ancestral spirits or deities, forming a permanent audience for these sacred walks. They could also have served as territorial markers, a visible declaration of a community's identity and connection to the land, a statement in stone that said, "We are here, and this place is significant." The truth likely encompasses all these ideas. The Carnac Alignments were a physical manifestation of a cosmic and social order. They mapped the cycles of the heavens onto the earth, provided a stage for rituals that bound the community together, and rooted that community's identity in the very soil they cultivated. They were trying to manifest harmony, to align human life with the perceived order of the universe. Each stone raised was an act of faith in that order, a permanent prayer in granite. These linear mysteries guide our eyes toward other patterns where the lines are not made of stone, but of life and memory etched directly into the soil. Their stone rows in Brittany charted the heavens, but across the Atlantic, a different culture sculpted the earth into a ceremonial geometry of breathtaking ambition. The river valleys of the eastern United States hold the legacy of the Hopewell culture, a people who from roughly 200 years before the Common Era to 500 years after transformed the landscape into a sacred expression of mathematics and cosmology. They did not build cities of stone, but instead constructed colossal earthworks, enormous embankments of soil that formed perfect circles, vast squares, and complex octagons across hundreds of acres. To walk through one of these sites today, like the Newark Earthworks in Ohio, is to move through a park-like setting with gentle, grass-covered ridges. The full, staggering design is completely invisible. You are standing inside a masterpiece you cannot see. Only from the air does the truth reveal itself. Those low ridges are the walls of a geometric sanctuary, a 2,000-year-old temple drawn on the earth itself with soil as its medium. The precision is humbling. At Newark, a gigantic circular enclosure over 1,200 feet in diameter connects to an even larger, perfectly formed octagon, with its corners and gateways aligned to key points of the Moon's complex 18.6-year cycle. This was not guesswork. It was the product of generations of careful observation, a communal understanding of celestial mechanics translated into architecture on a scale that required a god's-eye view to appreciate. The engineering skill this represents is astounding. Without the wheel, metal tools, or draft animals, Hopewell people moved millions of baskets of earth by hand, creating embankments that stood 20 feet high and flat-topped mounds that served as platforms for ceremonies. They surveyed these enormous shapes with a flawless understanding of geometry, ensuring their circles were true and their angles exact over distances that spanned entire horizons. This speaks of a society with remarkable social organization, capable of coordinating labor for projects that served a communal vision far beyond individual need. So why invest such immense, sustained effort into these ceremonial landscapes rather than permanent fortresses or palaces? The answer lies in the Hopewell worldview. For them, the most important architecture was not for daily living, but for connecting with the cosmic order. These earthworks were likely centers for grand periodic gatherings, drawing people from across a vast exchange network that spanned the continent. They came not to live, but to celebrate, to trade exotic materials like copper from the Great Lakes and mica from the Appalachians, and to participate in rituals that reaffirmed their place in the universe. The enclosures, aligned with the sun and moon, provided a sacred stage where the community could literally walk within the patterns of the cosmos, their rituals synchronized with the turning of the heavens. The earthworks were a physical prayer, a permanent investment in spiritual and social harmony. Their choice of earth as a material is profound. They built not to dominate the landscape, but to work with it to enhance its sacredness. When the gatherings ended, the people returned to their smaller settlements, leaving the silent geometric forms to await the next celestial alignment, the next great congregation. This monumental yet temporary use of space challenges our modern notions of permanence. It suggests that for the Hopewell, the most powerful legacy was not a city, but a ceremony made stone, or in this case, soil. These shapes in the earth are a testament to a culture that measured its wealth not in gold, but in knowledge, and its power not in walls, but in the ability to bring people together under the watchful eye of the moon and stars. A grassy hillock in the Chinese countryside can hide an empire's ambition. Scattered across the plains near the ancient city of Xi'an, over 100 pyramidal mounds rise from the farmland, their slopes softened by centuries of soil and deliberately planted with trees. To the untrained eye on the ground, they are simply part of the landscape, natural features in a vast agricultural plain. But from the sky, the truth is laid bare. Satellite imagery reveals a staggering necropolis, a planned city for the dead where emperors and nobles rest beneath earthen monuments. These are the Chinese pyramids, and their geometric alignment across the terrain speaks of a power that sought to project its order even into the afterlife. The most famous is the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor who unified China, his burial mound standing as a silent, unexcavated mountain guarding secrets we can only guess at. His mausoleum is just the centerpiece of a vast funerary landscape that evolved over 1,000 years, from the Zhou dynasty through the Han and into the Tang. Each grassy pyramid represents a colossal undertaking. Historical records describe the mobilization of hundreds of thousands of laborers, conscripted for years to move millions of tons of earth, layer by layer, to create these permanent resting places. The construction was more than an engineering feat, it was a cosmological act. The pyramids were not meant to be seen as isolated monuments, but as part of a grand celestial diagram. Their placements and orientations were carefully calculated, often aligned with cardinal directions and significant stars, reflecting an ancient belief that the emperor's authority was a divine mandate linking heaven and earth. His tomb was to be a microcosm of the universe, a sealed realm where he could continue his rule eternally. This is why the Chinese government's long-standing reluctance to excavate these sites, particularly the first emperor's tomb, adds such a profound layer of mystery. It is a policy born from deep respect for cultural heritage and a cautious understanding of the technological challenges involved, as the excavation of Qin Shi Huang's terracotta army pit demonstrated the fragility of such buried treasures. The decision to let the pyramids sleep means their greatest secrets remain intact. What artifacts, texts, or insights into early Chinese science, art, and belief are sealed within those earthen cores? The very inaccessibility fuels the imagination. The trees planted on their slopes, originally intended to reinforce the soil and symbolize eternal life, now serve as a perfect camouflage, making the full architectural intent a secret shared only with the sky. This hidden necropolis is the ultimate landscape of power. It demonstrates an imperial vision so comprehensive that it sought to organize not just the living world, but the realm of ancestors and gods, etching a permanent claim onto the very flesh of the earth. These quiet, grassy forms are a testament to a civilization that planned for eternity, leaving a question mark in the soil that only the future may dare to answer. A different kind of scar is written across the sands of the Great Sand Sea in Egypt. Here, the desert floor is littered with countless pieces of a mysterious substance, a yellowish, translucent silica glass. This is the Libyan desert glass field, a natural formation so distinct it forms a vast, light-colored patch clearly visible from orbiting satellites. This is not the work of human hands, but the signature of a cataclysm from the heavens. Roughly 29 million years ago, an event of unimaginable violence occurred here. The leading theory points to a meteorite either impacting the surface or exploding in a massive airburst just above it. The heat generated would have been instantaneous and extreme, far hotter than any furnace, instantly melting the quartz-rich sand of the desert into a sea of liquid glass that then cooled into the countless fragments we find today. The sheer scale of this natural event is humbling, a permanent burn mark on the planet's skin that only makes sense from a cosmic perspective. Yet this story does not end with geology. It seamlessly intertwines with our own. Millennia later, prehistoric humans wandering this desolate landscape discovered these strange, glittering pieces. They recognized a superior material, one that could be chipped and shaped into exceptionally sharp and durable tools. A stunning artifact in the tomb of the pharaoh Tutankhamun, a beautiful scarab pendant carved from this very glass, proves its value traveled across ages, becoming a prized item for royalty who had no idea of its extraterrestrial origin. This connection invites a profound question. How did those ancient nomadic peoples interpret this bizarre, glittering zone? In a world governed by myths and deities, a vast field of fused glass, unlike any natural stone they knew, must have seemed a place of immense power or sacred significance. Was it seen as a place where the gods had walked, scorching the earth with their presence? Did it become a destination for ritual, a source of material believed to carry celestial energy? The glass field stands as a powerful reminder that not every mystery viewed from above is a human creation. Some are natural archives of cosmic violence that later became chapters in the human story. It shows us that our ancestors were not just passive inhabitants of the world, but active interpreters of its wonders, weaving explanations and utility from the raw, inexplicable materials left behind by the sky itself. Beneath the clear, blue waves off Japan's westernmost island, the seafloor holds a riddle carved in stone. The Yonaguni Monument is a colossal structure, a terraced complex of massive platforms, sharp right angles, and what appear to be staircases, all lying in waters up to 100 feet deep. Since a local diver first encountered it in 1986, this underwater formation has divided experts and captivated imaginations. Is it the sunken ruins of a forgotten civilization, or simply a masterpiece of geological chance? The visual evidence is startling. From above, using satellite-derived maps of the seafloor, the formation's stark geometry stands out against the surrounding seabed. There are wide, flat terraces that drop like giant steps, perfectly straight walls meeting at 90-degree corners, and even features that look like carved pillars and a triangular tunnel. To many observers, these elements seem far too orderly, too architectural, to be purely natural. Proponents of the human origin theory, led by marine geologist Masaki Kimura, point to these precise formations as evidence of intelligent design. They suggest the monument could be a ceremonial platform, a fortress, or even a pyramid constructed by a prehistoric culture over 10,000 years ago, during the last ice age when sea levels were much lower and this area was dry land. If true, it would rewrite the history of human settlement in the Pacific. However, a strong counter-argument comes from mainstream geology. Many scientists note that the rock itself is sandstone, a sedimentary stone prone to fracturing along natural horizontal and vertical lines as it weathers. The powerful tidal currents in this region, they argue, could have eroded the stone along these existing joints, creating the flat plains and sharp angles over millennia through entirely natural processes. The apparent staircases could be the result of softer rock layers washing away, leaving behind harder steps. This geological viewpoint sees a fascinating but natural formation that our pattern-seeking brains interpret as architecture. The debate itself is the true heart of the mystery. It forces us to confront how we distinguish the hand of nature from the hand of humanity, especially after thousands of years of submersion and erosion. Even if the entire structure is natural, could ancient peoples have found it and modified it, carving additional features or using it as a sacred site before the waters rose? This possibility lies in a tantalizing middle ground. The Yonaguni Monument does not offer easy answers. It sits in a silent, blue twilight zone between categories, challenging our definitions and our timelines. Whether a quirk of tectonics and tides or a relic of a lost chapter, It stands as a powerful reminder that our planet's most compelling stories are often those hidden just out of sight, waiting for us to look deeper. From the depths of the ocean, our gaze lifts to a sight that watches from the heart of the desert. In the empty expanse of Mauritania, the Sahara holds a secret so vast it can only be seen in its entirety from space. This is the Richat structure, a colossal bullseye etched into the barren landscape, spanning nearly 50 kilometers across. Its perfectly concentric rings of alternating rock layers look like a giant's fingerprint pressed into the earth, or the ruins of some impossibly ancient circular city. For generations, the local nomadic peoples knew this place as a landmark in a featureless sea of sand, but its true form remained a mystery until the age of flight. When astronauts first looked down from orbit, they saw it staring back, a perfect, unblinking eye gazing up from the desert floor, earning its famous name, the Eye of the Sahara. The immediate, overwhelming impression is one of design. The symmetry is too perfect, the circles too regular. It feels intentional, a work of art or engineering on a planetary scale. This powerful visual cue has sparked waves of speculation, with the most popular theory suggesting these rings could be the remnants of the legendary lost city of Atlantis, described by Plato as a city of concentric rings. The idea is captivating, a solution to one of history's greatest mysteries seemingly written in the sand. Yet science offers a different, no less wondrous story. Geologists explain that the Eye is a deeply eroded geological dome. Hundreds of millions of years ago, forces from deep within the Earth pushed this section of crust upward, like a giant blister. Then, over eons, wind and water patiently sanded it down, layer by layer. The different rings we see are the exposed edges of varying rock types, some eroding faster than others, creating this natural masterpiece of topography. It is a lesson in scale and time, a natural formation that perfectly mimics the appearance of intelligent design. This distinction is crucial. It shows us how our pattern-seeking minds, when confronted with something so visually striking, instinctively reach for a human or mythical explanation. We see circles and think of walls, temples, and cities. The Richat structure challenges that instinct, reminding us that nature itself is the most profound artist, capable of creating geometries that dwarf our own. Its value is not diminished by being natural, it is enhanced. It becomes a cosmic landmark, a natural beacon used by astronauts to orient themselves, and a powerful symbol of how our planet's deepest history is written in stone, waiting for the right perspective to be read. The Eye does not need to be Atlantis to be magical. Its true power lies in its existence, a natural wonder so perfect it inspires legends, turning the desert itself into a canvas for our oldest stories and our newest discoveries. The desert's eye is a lesson in nature's own geometry, but other landscapes present an even finer line between the work of the world and the hand of humanity. In the windswept, remote plateaus of Argentine Patagonia, the earth is covered in what appears to be a sprawling, petrified river system. These are the Patagonian stone runs, vast networks of linear rock arrangements that stripe the high plains with an uncanny sense of order. From the ground, you walk across fields of dark, angular basalt stones, each one seemingly placed in long, meandering rows and clusters. The scale is immense and disorienting. But from the air, the true pattern emerges, revealing a landscape organized into stripes, labyrinths, and even polygonal shapes that stretch to the horizon, a cryptic text written in volcanic rock across an empty canvas. The immediate, compelling question is whether we are looking at a lost city, a ceremonial complex, or the world's most monumental stone pathway. The visual regularity is so striking it feels intentional, as if a giant hand carefully sorted and arranged these millions of stones. This has led to inevitable speculation about ancient builders. perhaps early indigenous peoples who used these lines as processional routes or territorial markers visible from high vantage points. Could these stone rivers be the remnants of a vast, forgotten network of trails? The temptation to see human design is powerful, a testament to how our minds seek meaning in pattern. Yet, science offers a different, no less fascinating origin story. Geologists identify these formations as spectacular natural features, known as periglacial stone stripes or sorted stone circles. They were not built but born from the relentless, patient power of ice and time. During past ice ages, this region experienced extreme freeze-thaw cycles. Over thousands of years, as the ground repeatedly froze and thawed, it acted like a natural sorting machine. The expansion of ice would push larger stones upward and outward, while finer soil and gravel settled downward. This process, repeated season after season, century after century, gradually organized the chaotic field of rubble into the elegant lines and polygons we see today. It is a slow-motion choreography performed by the climate itself, a perfect example of how natural forces can produce breathtakingly regular designs. This does not, however, mean the stone runs lack human significance. The very fact that they form clear, navigable lines across a difficult terrain would not have been lost on the indigenous peoples like the Tehuelche, who later inhabited this region. While they did not create these stone rivers, they almost certainly used them. These natural pathways would have provided vital, stable routes for travel and hunting across the otherwise boggy and uneven plateau, a ready-made highway system gifted by the glaciers. This interaction presents a profound middle ground. A feature can be entirely natural in its origin, yet become deeply cultural through use and interpretation. The stone runs teach us a critical lesson in humility when reading the landscape from above. They underscore the essential need for interdisciplinary study, where the eyes of the geologist, the archaeologist, and the cultural historian must all look together. The real mystery here is not who built them, but how we learn to distinguish the signature of the planet from the signature of people, and to understand where those two stories beautifully and meaningfully intersect. The vast Mongolian steppe holds a silent stone sentinel for every horizon. From the air, a pattern emerges across the endless grass, a scattering of thousands of small, circular mounds, and standing proudly among them, upright stones carved with elegant, leaping figures. These are the Khachkars and their enigmatic companions, the deer stones, monuments of a sophisticated Bronze Age nomadic culture that flourished over 3,000 years ago. To walk this landscape is to move through a sacred geography, where every stone and mound was placed with profound intention, a permanent signature of a people defined by movement. The Khachkars are circular stone fences, often surrounding a central mound, forming neat, repetitive patterns across the plains. From ground level, they are humble features, but from above, their sheer number and organized distribution reveal a staggering truth. This was not a haphazard burial practice, but a continent-wide tradition, a shared language of ritual architecture that connected nomadic communities across thousands of miles. The effort involved is a puzzle in itself. These were not farmers tied to one plot of land, but pastoral herders whose lives followed the seasons and their herds. Why would people who could pack their entire world onto the backs of horses or yaks invest such immense, collective labor into moving countless tons of stone to create fixed monuments they would regularly leave behind? The answer lies in a need deeper than practicality. For these nomadic societies, identity and memory were not rooted in cities, but in the landscape itself. The Khachkar complexes were likely ceremonial centers and memorial sites, places to honor leaders, ancestors, or communal events. Their consistent orientation, often aligned to the cardinal directions or toward sacred mountains visible on the distant skyline, wove them into a cosmic map. They were anchors in a life of motion, fixed points of spiritual return where the community could gather at specific times, reaffirming their shared beliefs and social bonds before dispersing again across the grassland. Standing sentinel at many of these sites are the deer stones, the true masterpieces of this steppe tradition. These are tall, rectangular standing stones, meticulously carved with a distinctive artistic style. Their surfaces are covered in bands of imagery, most strikingly, a procession of stylized deer with elongated, streaming antlers that seem to flow across the stone like rivers or beams of light. The animals are depicted in a graceful, flying leap, as if captured in a moment of otherworldly travel. Alongside them are carvings of belts, weapons, and circular faces that may represent sons or important individuals. The overall effect is one of immense symbolic power, a visual code waiting to be deciphered. Researchers believe these stones are not merely decorative. They likely represent a complex cosmology, a visual prayer connecting three realms. The carvings of deer, creatures that move between the forest and the plain, could symbolize a spiritual journey or a shaman's flight, bridging the earthly world with the sky above and the underworld below. The belts and weapons may denote status, marking the stone as a memorial to a revered warrior or chieftain, while the sun motifs speak to celestial reverence. These stones were more than tombstones, they were permanent conduits, ensuring the individual honored there remained connected to the cycles of life, death, and rebirth that governed the nomadic world. Together, the kirigsurs and deer stones form a landscape of memory. They show us a culture that measured wealth not in possessions, but in social cohesion and spiritual knowledge. The monumental effort to create them was an investment in eternity, a way to etch their story, their heroes, and their understanding of the universe directly into the bones of the earth they roamed. It proves that a life on the move was not a life without deep roots. Those roots were simply forged in ritual and stone, creating a permanent whisper on the wind that only the perspective of the sky allows us to finally hear. The geometric impulse did not vanish with the last ice age. It simply found new hands and new soil. In the rolling grasslands of Oklahoma, a perfect octagon sleeps beneath the prairie grass, a shape so precise it feels transplanted from the ancient Hopewell world. This is the Oklahoma Octagon, a large earthwork discovered not by archaeologists on foot, but by eyes in the sky examining aerial photographs of the American heartland. Its banks are low, its lines straight, forming a geometric echo in a landscape of open range and modern farms. Unlike the millennia-old mounds of Ohio, this structure's origins are a puzzle wrapped in recent history. Was it the work of 19th-century settlers, perhaps a forgotten corral, a riding arena, or an unusual property marker? Or does its form hint at a deeper, older story, a creation of indigenous peoples before the great changes brought by westward expansion? The very ambiguity of its age makes it a fascinating case study. For researchers, such ambiguous features are critical. They act as a test, challenging experts to use every tool from soil analysis to historical records to distinguish a 200-year-old settler's project from a 2,000-year-old ceremonial site. This detective work adds crucial layers to our understanding of how humans have continuously reshaped the land, not just in grand ancient bursts, but in quieter, more recent chapters. The Oklahoma Octagon, regardless of its true age, speaks to a persistent human language. It shows that the drive to impose geometry, to create order and meaning within a vast landscape, is not bound to one era or one culture. A 19th-century rancher laying out a perfect octagon for reasons we can no longer recall was participating in the same fundamental act as a Hopewell surveyor aligning an earthwork with the moon. Both were using the most available material, the earth itself, to make a statement, to claim a space, or to fulfill a vision that required a view from above to be fully understood. This modern or near-modern earthwork ties an ancient impulse directly to our recent past, proving that the conversation between humanity and the horizon never truly ended. It simply changed its vocabulary. A single thread connects every one of these 25 mysteries, from the Stone Elk of the Urals to the desert kites of Jordan, from the perfect circles of the Amazon to the colossal man in Australia. A universal human impulse shines through. It is the profound need to communicate, but not with words on a page. These are conversations held with the horizon itself, messages inscribed in earth, stone, and chalk meant for an audience beyond the human. The full meaning of a Nazca hummingbird or a Mongolian deer stone is only unlocked from a vantage point its creators could never physically reach. This was not a limitation, but the entire point. The designs were crafted for gods in the sky, for ancestral spirits, or for the land itself, transforming entire regions into sacred arenas visible only to a celestial gaze. They represent a form of faith made permanent, a prayer so large it required the earth as its parchment. Beyond the spiritual, these structures served as anchors of identity in a vast and often unforgiving world. For nomadic herders on the Mongolian steppe, the Kirigsua circles were fixed points of memory in a life of constant movement. For the Paracas sailors, the giant trident was a beacon declaring their presence to the ocean. Each creation, whether a Hopewell earthwork or a Sajama line, was a declaration. It said, "We are here, this place is significant, and our community has the unity and strength to reshape it forever." The investment of collective labor is itself a powerful message. Moving thousands of tons of stone for the wheel of giants or coordinating generations to maintain the Uffington white horse required a shared vision so compelling it could organize societies for centuries. The monument was not just the final shape, but the act of creation itself, a ritual of community binding etched into the landscape. Today, our tools for discovering these conversations have changed, but the dialogue continues. The same satellite technology that revealed the Amazonian circles and the Russian elk also allows us to see the modern mystery of the Marree Man. This technological leap has turned our entire planet into an archaeological site, reminding us that history is not only buried beneath our feet, but often hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right perspective. Each new line discovered from the sky challenges our timelines and assumptions, proving that the human story is far richer and more interconnected than we ever knew. What does this enduring quest tell us about ourselves? The drive to leave a mark that outlasts a single lifetime, to speak to forces greater than ourselves, and to find our place within the grand cycles of nature and cosmos, is a fundamental part of being human. These 25 structures are not isolated puzzles. They are chapters in a single, ongoing story, a testament to the timeless need to look at a blank horizon and say, "We were here and we understood this was sacred." This journey across deserts, mountains, and plains connects a single, profound human story. From the hummingbird in Peru's sand to the giant in Australia's dust, these 25 structures form a chorus across time, a testament to our unending desire to leave a mark that speaks to the sky. They are not random scratches on the planet, but deliberate, often sacred, conversations held with the horizon itself. Each one challenges the neat timelines of history, forcing us to reconsider what ancient peoples knew, how they organized, and what they believed. The precision of the Hopewell Octagon, the endurance of the Uffington horse, and the sheer scale of the Sajama lines all whisper of societies with deep knowledge and powerful shared purpose, whose greatest monuments were designed for a view they themselves could never physically achieve. Their legacy is a reminder that our past is not confined to museums. It is written in the very soil we walk upon, in patterns so vast they patiently waited centuries for us to climb high enough to see them. Today, our satellites and aerial cameras are the new eyes in the sky, scanning the planet and revealing hidden chapters at an astonishing pace. The Amazonian circles, the Russian elk, and the Saudi Mustatils were all mysteries sleeping beneath forest and sand until technology gave us the perspective to find them. This makes you wonder what else is out there. What other colossal signatures are hidden in the remote tundra, the dense rainforest, or the ocean floor, waiting for the right scan, the right shadow, the right pair of eyes to bring their story to light? Every new line discovered adds another verse to humanity's oldest poem, one inscribed directly onto the earth. We encourage you to take this curiosity with you. Look at the world from a new angle, whether it is through online maps or simply by considering the shape of the land around you. History is all around us, often hidden in plain sight. Share which of these aerial wonders captured your imagination the most in the comments below. Was it the celestial wheel in the Golan Heights, the silent stone army at Carnac, or the modern mystery of the Marree Man? Thank you for joining this exploration of the unseen patterns of our past.